Hey garden nerds, welcome to part 2 of our container to Vego Garden transformation. I'm Christy Wilhelmi from Gardenerd, and this video is all about the irrigation system, filling the beds, and transplanting perennials into the beds. If you missed part 1 of this video series, you'll find it up there and down below in the description so you can watch our whole process from soup to nuts on converting a container garden into a thriving perennial bed. I'm excited to share the rest of this process with you to make it easier for you to do yourself. For the irrigation piece of this project, we are focused on above ground irrigation. This is a battery operated timer. It's hooked up to a hose bib. It makes it really easy to run irrigation anywhere in your yard. That is connected to a connector and 1/2-inch tubing, and that 1/2-inch tubing runs to the beds. Once we're inside the beds, we need to create an angle that takes it up to the soil surface and then across one edge of the bed. The way we're doing that is with additional 1/2-inch tubing, 2 L brackets so we don't have kinks in the hose, and then we need additional 1/2-inch tubing across the top, and you need a couple of end caps. These they hook on the end of the 1/2-inch tubing and they unscrew so you can flush the line when you need to. And then we're going to plug in 1/4-inch tubing with 6-inch emitters, meaning holes every 6 inches, with barbed connectors, and then cap the ends with goof plugs. It's like Legos. Sometimes it helps to soak the end of the tubing in hot water for a minute, about 10 seconds, so that it goes on more easily. There we go. The next piece is to insert some 1/2-inch tubing into here. I'm going to soak the end of this in some boiling water for about 10 seconds to soften it. And now insert this. So when I pull on it, it doesn't come out. That means it's in place. Now we measure to the top of the raised bed and cut. I also need to soak this for about 10 seconds, and then I'm going to attach the next piece. And then we're going to run a 1/2-inch piece across this edge here. And I want that to be about this long. What I'm going to do the end cap first on this end, then I'll soak this so it'll go in there. Put the end cap on, and that goes on really nicely. Soak the other end and install it in here. There. With the main irrigation installed, now it's time to fill these beds. We're going to start by putting a bunch of sticks and twigs and such at the bottom, including these stalks from the tree kale we cut down and these paper pots from our previous container garden. We're also using twigs and sticks and some compost from an open pile compost that's been sitting there for probably a year. And then we're going to add the old soil that was in most of the pots from the container garden back into these beds before we top it with fresh, brand new, sterile soil. Now, because we're using so much undecomposed material in here, this soil will settle, which can be a problem for perennials. But we're going to overfill the rest of the bed with really good soil that won't break down too much, and we're going to plant the perennials a little bit high. We spent some quality time with bagged soil, filling this bed up all the way to the top, and now we're ready to install the irrigation across the soil surface. Once you've gotten to this point of having your drip line across here, there's one more thing I forgot to mention that you'll need, and that is this punch. This is a hole punch for 1/2-inch tubing, and it is perfect for making 1/4-inch size holes for your 1/4-inch tubing. So it only costs a couple bucks. It's nice to have on hand. And we're also going to use our hot water. We have our goof plugs for the end, and the first thing we're going to work with is these barbed couplings. And we're attaching our 1/4-inch tubing with 6-inch emitters from here to run down the length of the bed. I like to wear gloves when I'm handling the tubing because it seems to grip a little bit better. Since these beds are 2.5 feet wide, we have the choice between 2 lines 1 foot apart from each other or 3 lines a little closer than a foot apart. We're opting for the latter. First thing to do is punch a hole 1, 2, and 3. So we're punching a hole on the side that you want it in. You'll hear it pop, just like that. All right, next you're going to attach a barbed coupling to your tube. And I'm going to soak this for 10 seconds to make it easy. And you just stick the short side in. Actually, I'm going to stick the long side in the tube all the way up as far as I can. And then the short side is going to go in the 1/2-inch tube here until it clicks into place. And you can see that's flush with the line. Once you measure how long your tubing is going to go to the end of the bed, then it's time to put a goof plug in the end, and that caps it off. Goof plugs are usually 2-sided. They have a thin side and a fat side for 2 different sized tubes. We're going to use the finer side for this. And basically it inserts in the end. It's called a goof plug, but it is going to keep it from water from coming out the end. So this is ready. Now repeat the process with the other 2 lines and you're all done. And as a total afterthought, I realized I'm going to put 1 mint pot in front of each planter, because we're keeping mint in the pots, remember? And it will have a bubbler connected to a piece of tubing with no emitters with a barbed connector on the end. And then we'll run the middle tube, I'm going to cut off the goof plug I put on there, down under the bottom of the raised bed and out and into the pot. Okay, now it is time to transplant these perennials into their new home. You start by taking the smallest thing, like this oregano here, and basically you just go in around the edges and dig, loosen it from around the edges. But we want it to come out of the pot really easily. And it might need some help. Look at those worms. Hey there. For this oregano, I have dug a hole that is about 2/3 of the depth. You can see it still sits up a couple of inches above the soil level. That's just about right for me right now. We're going to break up the root ball a little bit. Just massage the roots apart a little bit to help point them in a new direction in their new home. Drop it in, and I'm going to point it toward the edge so it can spill over and backfill. Take the drip line and run it right into the middle here. This pot has a couple of things going on inside. First, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tree kale cuttings from that big plant that was attached to this pole. I'm going to replant these around here, and then in the center is a rooted cutting of a lime geranium that has been with me for probably 20 years. And the original, which is over there, has outgrown its pot. It is in such dire straits, but this new guy sprouted up, and that's going to go over there. So let's start with the tree kale cuttings. Just gonna make some space around here and bury these. I have room for about 5 or 6. I'm gonna run this drip line right down the middle here. And to ensure that these guys are protected from rats, we're putting cloches over each one. I want to put the artichokes in this bed because it'll get more sun than the one that has a little bit of shade from the trellis. Woohoo! That's not bad, actually. With room to grow. This particular artichoke is very special. It is called a Winnetka purple artichoke, and it was grown from seed from Winnetka farms, and they pretty much are extinct at this point. Not really, but hard to find anyway. So I want to keep this one going, and the fact that it's making babies makes me very, very happy. Okay, we're done for now, but not done. You can see there's still plenty of room to plant other things, other perennials, and more tomatoes, which is what this container garden was used for a lot of the time. I'm planning on putting in another sage, another thyme, and we'll be watering all of these transplants with kelp emulsion to help ease transplant shock. There's also rain in the forecast, so we're expecting them to survive. Well, garden nerds, it was a lot of work, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm really happy with the results. The garden looks fabulous, it's so much more organized, and it's going to be healthy and happy and thriving because it has the irrigation it needs, the room to grow, and like really good soil and better drainage. So check out Vego Gardens, use our affiliate link and our discount code GardenNerd10 off to get a discount on your own Vego Gardens for yourself. Thanks Vego Gardens for sending me these beds. I'm really appreciative. You can find more great products at gardenerd.com on our trusted resources page. You'll find all kinds of information about growing stuff in containers and in raised beds in my books, High Yield Small Space Organic Gardening, Grow Your Own Mini Fruit Garden, and my novel, Garden Variety. Yeah, it's peppered with gardening lessons. And consider becoming a Patreon subscriber to support all the free stuff that we do here at Garden Nerd. Patreon supporters get behind the scenes access to monthly hangouts with me, tours of Garden Nerd headquarters, and answers to your burning gardening questions. All this and more at gardenerd.com. Happy gardening.